Do you guys have any questions? Okay, so let's get started. At this point, I'm going to go over our learning objective, and then from there, we're going to move on into our transition. So today's standard is students will write narratives to develop real or imagined experiences or events using effective technique, relevant descriptive details, and well-structured event sequences. Can I get a volunteer to read the learning objective for us today? The writing in blue. Let me see. I choose Ellie. Can you read the learning objective for us today, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
I will be able to identify the 5 characteristics of narrative writing and apply the outsider narrative assignment.
Thank you. So yes, that's what we're going to be doing today. By the end of today, you should be able to tell me what the 5 characteristics of narrative writing are. Hint, hint, it will be in your exit ticket, so let's pay attention to that. All right, so your do now question. I will explain how you will get to your do now question, but first let's look at it. In your opinion, what are 3 elements or things that a good story should have? Explain why you chose these 3 elements. An example of a sentence starter is, one good element that a story should have is because. So don't forget that because. Don't forget to explain why. Okay, so what do I mean by this question? I don't know, if you're a fan of action movies, that's the story, right? You're watching a story take place. So what are 3 elements that you look for in a good story? Okay, it doesn't have to be a book. It could be maybe someone, you're listening to someone say a story. It can be that you're watching a movie or you're watching a series, a show. So you can apply to any of those things, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Schoology. So please open up your Schoology for your English class. We are still in the Outsiders unit, so you're going to open the Outsider purple folder, and we are currently in week 12. There you should see the first assignment. I have a lot in common with a lot of you. I feel like you guys really took the time to explain what you look for in a good story. So I really appreciate your honesty and what you're looking for a good story. So I'm going to use Dojo to randomly select students so they can share out with us. The first one is Tanya. Tanya, can you, or Tanya here? Yes. Tanya, can you share your do now, please?
I have to read it all?
Oh, you can summarize it if you want.
Okay. In my opinion, 3 elements that make a good story should have action, obstacles, and reflection / time for the characters to reflect on their actions. Action should be one of the elements because without action, how can a story be interesting or how can it appeal to the readers? Another element that a story should have is obstacles. Obstacles should be another element because it is impossible for something not to go wrong in the story. Additionally, obstacles are the main point in a story, / it demonstrates the struggles that the characters are going through. With obstacles in a story, the characters have to learn how to adapt to whatever situation they are in. The last element that should be in a story is reflection. Reflection should be one of the elements in a story because it shows that the reader what is going on in the mind of the character. It also adds on to the story by showing us what was resolved, what needs to be fixed, or the insecurities that are still within the characters.
that was very well thought out. I really appreciate how you gave your opinion, but then you gave your reasoning as to why you believe it needs to have a well-structured and detailed plot. I totally agree with you. Couldn't agree with you more. Thank you, Tanya. That was excellent. All right, next one. I got Christian Hernandez. Is he here? Our lesson for today. So I know that Christian and a lot of you guys actually talked about some of the elements of narrative writing that we're going to be reviewing today. It is technically a review for you guys. You guys definitely know what a good story needs. You guys know the elements of a good story. So it's kind of like a review for you guys, so that when I introduce you guys to your narrative writing assignment, it's fresh in your mind. So we're going to watch a quick video on Brain Pop. Raise your hand if you remember Brain Pop. I used to love Brain Pop. I still do. I love Brain Pop. So we're going to watch this short video. And then right now the expectation is simply to mute yourself and watch the video. And do me a favor, give me a thumbs up if you're able to listen to the video, and if it's glitchy, let me know right away so that I can try to fix the problem. So we're going to start, and then give me a thumbs up if you hear fine.
Okay, so it's the sequel to the most beloved movie of all time, The Wizard of Oz.
I know that was a review for most of us. And they showed you all a few diagrams that you can use, but we're going to stick to this one, the most commonly used diagram to kind of create the plot of a story. So let's do a quick review. What is the first element of narrative writing?
Exposition.
Yes, and what is our
Where
exposition?
they start.
Yes, thank you. The beginning, where you start. This is the beginning of your story, where you give background information about the protagonist, about our main character, right? You can do that by giving details about their appearance or the setting. Where is it taking place? What time of day is it? What year is it? Just background information. You're painting a picture. You're starting the story, right? Then comes what?
The rising action, or like some sort of problem or obstacle.
Perfectly put. Yes. The rising action is where we're introduced to a problem or a conflict that creates a sequence of events that intensify over time, right? It affects our character. It affects the plot of our story. It becomes more and more intense until what happens?
The climax.
Until the climax happens. And what is our climax? Oops.
The main part of the story.
I clicked 1, 2 too many times. And yes, what is our falling action after a climax?
The event that happens after the climax.
Thank you, right? So we have our climax, the most exciting part of the story, the turning point, if you will, right? And then after that, we see events that happen after. And then when you're writing a story, it's easier to identify a falling action because it's basically any event right after the climax, right? What is our last one?
Resolution.
A resolution, which is basically how you end your story, how the problem resolves. If it resolves completely, maybe it doesn't resolve completely, but it is giving a suggestion that your story is over, right? When we're writing a story, when we're telling a story, oftentimes people want happy endings. They want the problem to be resolved. But does that happen all the time?
No.
No, right? So many times we're watching a show and we're like, a whole season goes by and from the beginning, there's flashbacks of like the climax, right? Like the main part of the story, and then at the end we're kind of left like, wait, what happened? Like they kind of leave the viewer kind of like wanting more, right? That's kind of like a strategy that a lot of writers use, so that especially if they're gonna have sequels. So definitely that is a form of resolution, where it's like we're giving you a hint that this isn't over yet, but for the sake of this book or the sake of this season, this is all you're getting. Right? But there's different ways to interpret resolution. Yeah, Steve, to be continued. Thank you. Alrighty. Any questions about these 5 elements of narrative writing? This is a formula that we're going to be using. Alright? I suggest that you just pay close attention to these 5 elements, because we're going to be using it throughout the day today, and it's going to be in the coming days, okay? So without further ado, I introduce to you your prompt. In The Outsiders, we see the story being told through Ponyboy's point of view. Now it is going to be your turn to do the same. Imagine you are one of the characters we were introduced to in The Outsiders. You will choose from one of these 3 characters: Johnny, Dally, or Cherry. Again, you will choose from only one of these 3 characters: Johnny, Dally, or Cherry. Think about how they are feeling, what might be running through their mind during a certain event. How would you react as if you were that character? Okay? You're going to write as though you are that character, so in first person. Okay? You're going to write in first person as if you were that character that you chose. Think about how Ponyboy wrote about his experiences throughout the story. We knew exactly what Ponyboy was thinking and feeling throughout the entire story. You will choose one of the following scenes to write about. You're either going to write about the scene where Johnny murders Bob, the scene of the rumble, or the scene of either Dally or Johnny's death. Okay? I know it's a lot to unpack. Initial thought.
It sounds like it doesn't seem.
All right. So definitely, I don't know if you heard of this quote, life is what you make of it, right? It's so true in so many levels. This assignment is going to be as fun as you want it to be, as fun as you make it. This is a perfect opportunity for you to be as creative as possible, right? Don't be nervous. We'll definitely, Rachel, don't be nervous. We're going to be working on this together. The reason why we decided to break it out into parts is because we want to make sure that we take it step by step. Because writing a narrative is not an easy task, and we know that. But we also know how capable you are, because we've seen how creative you guys are, and we are super excited to see your guys' work. So let's recap. What is the first part that you need to do when thinking about this narrative assignment? It's highlighted in yellow in the first paragraph.
You need to choose a character.
Yes, you need to choose one of these 3 characters: Johnny, Dally, or Cherry. Can it be any other character?
No.
Yeah, unfortunately, we need to create some sort of boundary line for us to be able to kind of like teach the same, like a uniform idea of what we want to see in this assessment. So we chose those 3 specific characters for a reason, right? So yes, those 3 characters, choose one. What is the next part?
You choose one of the scenes.
Yeah, so your first part is you choose a character, one of those 3. The next main part is that you're going to choose, your story needs to incorporate one of these scenes. Wherever you decide to put it in your story, it needs to include one of these scenes. It could either be the murder of Bob, the rumble, or the death of Dally or Johnny. Okay? Any questions about those two elements of your story?
Isn't that hard? Miss, say if you pick Johnny and you pick the scene of Dali, isn't Johnny already dead in that scene of Dali?
You can anticipate like a foreshadowing event. Remember we talked about the term foreshadowing. You can go that route.
To answer your question, Alfred, you can also think that Johnny was already thinking that Dali was going in the wrong path. Remember, he was telling, he wrote to Ponyboy, his last words were, "Make sure that Dali sees a sunset because I know that he hasn't seen a sunset." He's already aware of the type of mentality that Dali has.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're choosing Dali's death, you don't necessarily have to be Johnny or Cherry. You can be Dali himself during that scene, what he was thinking during that time.
And be as creative as possible. You want Johnny to be a ghost? Make Johnny a ghost. You know what I mean?
Exactly. There's so many possibilities that you guys can do with these stories. And you guys are jokesters, you guys are dramatic people, so I'm expecting a lot of comedy and dramatics in these stories.
For sure. And then we're going to be here to guide you. You guys are going to use each other, your peers, for peer edit reviews, teacher check-ins. So there's so much room for expanding your ideas. Okay, so that's the big picture. We're going to move away from this just for a few minutes because I want to show you my example. So I wrote an example, but I obviously didn't do either Johnny, Dali, or Cherry. I wanted to choose a different character. So I did mine on Soda Pop, as if I was Soda Pop. So this is what I wrote. Sleepless nights. It is hard to believe that a whole year has gone by. There isn't a single night that goes by where I lay in bed, drenched in my own sweat, thinking about that dreadful night. Everybody tells me, "Soda, how can you be so happy all the time?" Little do they know how long my nights are, thinking of what I could have done differently. Maybe if I was there with you that night, then things would have been different for you, Pony. I understand why you and Johnny ran off, I do. But I can't help to blame myself for not being there with you that night. That horrible night that changed all of our lives. I am your older brother. I should have been there by your side. Maybe if those socials would have seen three of us in the park that cold night, they would have thought twice about picking a fight. But maybe not. Maybe Johnny killing Bob was meant to be. I just wish I could take all your pain away, little brother. Every day that goes by, I see your innocence fading away. That night changed all of our lives, but it affected you the most. The only thing that brings me peace at night is knowing that Jerry, you and I will always be together. We are brothers, and we will never leave each other. This town outserved Derry and me, but you are special. I will do everything I can to get you a better life, because if anyone deserves to live a happy life, it's you, Ponyboy. How much work are you gonna make me put into this? I know you guys are thinking it. For this assignment, we would like for you guys to do 3 paragraphs or more. Can it be any shorter than 3 paragraphs? Can it be any less than 3 paragraphs?
No.
No. Can it be any more than 3 paragraphs?
No.
Yes. If you want to do more than 3 paragraphs, please, we encourage you doing more than 3 paragraphs, because the more you write, the more detail your story has, the more your character develops, the more your plot develops, right? We highly encourage more than 3 paragraphs. The minimum is 3. Okay? Oops, whoever's writing on my board, please stop. Okay. Appreciate it. So now let's use my super short example and apply the 5 elements, because that's probably where you guys are going to need a little bit more guidance. It's okay, elders, no worries. Okay, so the very first part, my introduction. It is hard to believe that a whole year has gone by. There isn't a single night that goes where I lay in bed drenched in my own sweat, thinking about the dreadful night. And then I also introduce my character as Soda, right? So that's my exposition. I'm kind of painting a picture for my protagonist and how he's feeling. What is one detail I gave about in my exposition? So in my very first line, my very first paragraph, how can you tell that's my exposition? What did I provide for you guys?
The setting.
I gave you a setting, which is what?
Night.
It's at nighttime. I'm in my own bed, drenched in my own sweat. A whole year has gone by, right? So I give you a sense of time. A whole year has gone by. It's at nighttime. I'm in my bed feeling so anxious and guilty. And I gave you my protagonist. I'm Soda. Okay. Where does my rising action come in? What hint do I give about my rising action? What is my hint?
Yes. That he can't help to blame himself.
Yes, I can't help to blame myself. I feel so guilty. That's giving you a hint about a certain event that happened that's causing Soda Pop to feel anguish and guilt. What is my climax, my main event?
Where it says, but maybe not, maybe Johnny killing Bob was meant to be.
Yes, we find out the climax was revealed. Oh shoot, someone died. Johnny killing Bob affected everyone. Obviously, especially Bob because he's dead, right? But it affected the whole group, right? And he's feeling all this anguish and this guilt. What is the falling action? What is the result of the climax? Remember, the falling action is whatever happens as the result after the climax. So as a result of the main event, what happened?
That every day that goes by, he sees that Ponyboy is losing his innocence more.
Do you agree with that? In the book, after that chapter 4, after that chapter, did you see a change in Ponyboy? If you were to compare Ponyboy in chapter 1 versus in chapter 12, what changed in him?
He got more rough, more tough.
Yeah, more tough. Even 2-Bit was like, what are you doing, bro? Like, what are you doing? And he was kind of like, had this I don't care attitude, like, what's the point anyway? Yeah, Aleida, the way he sees things is more like, I grew up, look, like, my innocence is gone. I know that life is really tough, and good people die, right? So we definitely saw that the climax, how the climax affected Ponyboy. All right. And then my resolution, the ending to my story. How do I end my story? My kind of boring story, let's be honest. What is my resolution? At the end of the day, Soda has kind of a feeling of relief that, look, at the end of the day, I know this happened, this sucks, but we're brothers and we're going to be here for each other, right? All right. So this is kind of what we're looking for. once you start to develop your story, you're going to see that it's going to be pretty easy to identify these 5 elements. I wouldn't start with like, oh, my exposition, I'm doing my exposition. I would start with just freestyling it. Like, once you have your information, what you want to write about, start to freestyle it and then start to connect the 5 elements here and there. And then use each other for support. Ask your peers, ask your teachers if you're stuck on something. Because chances are, maybe you already have the falling action, you just can't see it. Or maybe you already have your rising action and you can't see it, right? Okay, so now we're going to do some research. Like I said, we're not gonna like start the work on conducting your research for your exposition. Then maybe you can check in with your teacher about completing your rising action. But our focus for today is our exposition, okay? So before we get started, let's read the directions. Can I have Tanya read the directions for me, please?
Create an outline of your story. Answer the questions in each of the boxes below. The more details you put into your outline, the easier it will be for you to write your narrative.
Thank you, Tanya. So, like I said, today we're only doing the first box, the exposition. On Thursday, you guys will be working in this class in completing the rest of your outline. Okay? So, let me go to my example, right? I did soda pop, and what I mean by the more research you put it, the more evidence you put in your box, the easier it is for you to write your story. It's true. I created this research, and then it really helped me when developing my story, because I had to keep in mind the tone of voice that Soda uses. He's a very chill person, easygoing, everybody loves him, he's kind, he's always funny. But I wanted to portray a new Soda Pop that we didn't get to see, because again, remember, The Outsiders was told by Ponyboy. So this is going to be your opportunity to recreate, right? To restructure these characters. Either you choose Johnny, Dally, or Cherry. Maybe we see a new side to them that we didn't get to see because it was through Ponyboy's perspective. So maybe you choose Dally and you choose to not show him as rough as we thought he was. Maybe he's more vulnerable than we think, right? Or if you choose Johnny, maybe he's more brave than we think. So this is going to be your opportunity. You're going to be using the next 20 minutes of class in your small group to work either independently and like really focus, open up your book and look at all your annotations that you have, that you wrote down about whatever character you choose. You can ask the other classes have been doing a great job at asking each other, like, hey, do you guys remember what page I can find this scene, or what page I can find this, or what chapter I can find in this? So you're going to use each other. You're going to use Miss Lopez and I. So yes, I would say the more bullet points you have, the better. 20 minutes should be more than enough time for you to not only choose a character, but find out basic information about their character traits, their personality, their physical traits, who they were close to in the story. Were they close to Ponyboy? Were they close to Dally? Who were they close to? Were they associates? Were they a greaser? Did they have a good upbringing? Did they have a rough upbringing? All of the elements that are going to affect the character development of your story should be in this box. Don't forget about the setting. Where do you want this to take place? Is this going to take place in the country? Is it going to take place in a hospital? Is it going to take place in a rich neighborhood? Especially if you're choosing Cherry. Is it going to take place in school? Where is it going to take place? So choose your setting, give us a sense of time, give us a sense of how your character is feeling. Any questions?